into the specifics of what dentals are and why do we call them dentals, I want you to repeat these words and see what happens, right? Thin, thick. Okay. iPhone, phone. So here, look at what's happening when you say the n sound. Okay. Similarly, theater. Focus on what's happening here. So again, just to repeat, before we get into the specifics of why we call them dentals, see how you are pronouncing these four words. The th sound in thin, similarly the th sound in thick. When you say iPhone, the n sound in iPhone, theater. So again the th sound here in the theater. You will notice that for all of them, you are putting, the tip of your tongue uh, to the back of the upper teeth. Yes? Yes or no? You can write down on the comment. So again, you'll notice that, what you're doing when you're pronouncing all these sounds, you know, you'll place your tip of the tongue to the back of upper teeth. And that's the reason we are referring to them as dentals. So all these sounds, where you are using the tip of your tongue and you're putting it back, to the upper teeth to make sound, you will refer them as dentals. So we have 5 consonants in this particular series, and like last time, on like all these lectures we have done so far, we'll be using the same patterns. We'll go over each of the consonant one by one. So, again, if you have any questions, write down on the chat box so that I can, review your questions as we are going along the lecture. But let's start with the first one. So just to give you the idea of all of them, it's basically the, first I'll write down all of them. The next one is th, the, the, and the last one is no. No. So we'll be covering each of them one by one, and we'll spend pretty much 10 to 15 minutes understanding each of them. So let's start with the first one, which is the. The first one I said it's the. Write it like this. Think of it like one of the easier way to remember is like you make a vertical uh, line and then horizontal and then again the vertical. So look like a chair, but it's like rounded from here. You can come up with different strategies, but the idea here is like you just have uh, like a vertical line, again the horizontal line, and then the vertical, and you can, if you want, you can make it rounded. So it's the chair, the. And as I said, you will use your tip of the tongue and try to put it onto the upper back of the upper teeth and try to make this sound the. Uh, I couldn't find like a this particular sound in English words. So to cover the examples, I'll be going over the Hindi words only. And in a way, it's good also because then you'll be learning some Hindi vocabulary word as well. However, if you can think of the sound in, if you think that the sound exists in some of the Hindi words, you can write down on the comments so we can test it out whether we are really using the t sound or not. So just to cover some examples, like there's a Hindi word called talwar. The talwar, right? And in talwar it means sword. Sword. Okay? Talwar. The second one I have is tarboos. Anybody can guess what it means? Tarboos. Okay, tarboos is watermelon. Tarboos. Again, in tarboos you have a t sound. First, I'll cover explicitly the, and then we'll do the variation, like how adding different vowels changes the t sound to the, ta, ti, right? Um, then next one I have is like a name. I'm not sure if it's a recently released movie, in Hindi, which is Tanu Meds Vanu Returns. So that even the name Tanu, there's a t sound in it. So it's a name, Hindi name Tanu. You can check it out. The movie also. I heard great reviews about it. T sound again. So now let's do the variation of it, as some of you already pointed out on the, in the comments. So we can cover examples of variations. So one of the examples that was given was pati. There is a t plus e sound there, right? So pati is husband. Okay? Pati. Patni is also an example of the, but we are using half the there. Since I have not covered half the, I'll not really write it here. The next one is like all the pronouns that we were using for informal you, to, right? Informal you. So it's basically this sound. To, tumhara. Tumhara is yours, right? All of them you'll see that there is a the base sound is the, and then you're adding like oo here, which basically another like a vowel. Tu, tum, tumhara. Some of you give example of tala also, which is like tala, right? Tala is a lock. So again, it's the plus tala, right? Tala is lock. So it's a variation of very good example which was given just now is Sat. Sat is number 7, right? And then if you notice it here, toward the end you're using Sat. So toward the end, it's not add, just like if I just underline this T sound here, that's basically the Sat. Very good. So all these are examples of the. If you can think of the same sound the in your native language, definitely send it to me as well. I would be interested in learning which languages have this dental t in them. I mean it will help me learn as well. So that's the first consonant in this dental series. Let's go to the next one. So the next one, the next dental that we have is known as th. Th. And again, By now must have guessed the pattern, right? We have two kind of sound, right? Unaspirated and then aspirated. Some of you probably didn't join last class, so I'm going to repeat the concept. In unaspirated, it doesn't come up with the that flow of the air. Whereas the aspirated consonants, they're coming up with the flow of air. You're throwing a lot of air when you're saying it. So when you said there wasn't that much of air. But th is nothing but an aspirated version of the earlier consonant. So, just to practice it, you put your mouth in front of, hand in front of your mouth and make this sound the, right? So it will come with some air. So even though, you're saying the, but because of the flow of air, you are saying th, th. So if you're a beginner, it will help you practice it, when you're saying the with the flow of air, which will become th. You'll see a lot of words in English, where you're using th sound. And initially we'll go over the, some of the English examples, and then I'll jump to the Hindi examples of the sound th, right? So th, it looks like a swan basically, right? I mean, it looks like a swan, and you can come up with different strategies to remember it, but again, we'll practice it. We'll make a small circle, and we'll make a neck of a swan. Step two. Again, circle, neck of a swan, and then extend it and make a vertical line. Th. Okay, th. So now let's look at examples of th. Thumb, th. In thumb, we are using, the sound thumb, thumb. Okay. Uh, in Hindi, if you say heart, heart is, anybody can guess and write down on the comment box. Heart means hand in Hindi, hand. So this sound is th toward the end. This is her, but this is th. So that's th. In thumb, the first one, the first letter that we have is th. Okay. Let's look at some more examples of th. Thermometer, right? That's also th. When you say thermometer, right? This sound is again th in thermometer. Good, right? Now let's look at some of the English, right? I mean, in the beginning of the lecture, I told you to recite some of the words such as theater, theater, or thick, thin, all of them, thick, thin, therapy, all of them, pretty much. You're using this sound. Th. One more example which is given in the comment is thermos. Um, thermos, right? Th. Good. So, any question on this one? Any question on this particular sound or thrust? Let me know if you find this sound, the th sound, in your native language as well. Again, it will help me understand, how which languages are using dentals and which of them are not. Uh, it's always good to learn from each other, right? Th. Right. Let's move to the next one. The next sound. So far we have done the. The next one we have done is th. Now we'll jump to the next one. This one, you write it like, and I'll practice it with you. It's basically the this one is easier to remember because what you're doing is like making a small vertical line, and your step one is, remember we practiced in the previous lecture, and what you're doing here is like, you make a but then you make a small p here at the bottom of it. So that's so that's this one is step one, and then this is step two. Make a and then make a p at the bottom of it. The and the sound is pretty much the same as when you say the English word the. You make this sound. You say it as the, right? Now, let's cover some of the English examples because this sound is pretty much available in English as well, English or Spanish. Um, and then we'll go over the Hindi, some of the Hindi words for the.
Adi.
Just let me quickly make sure that I comment. Okay, so good that I'm hearing some of the examples on the comment box as well. Um, so you have some of the examples as I mentioned is the, which is English letter the, right? And then you have dahi, which is a Hindi word. It means yogurt. When you say dahi, there is a the sound in it. Dahi, right? Even when you say another, again I'll take the Hindi example first, dawa. And you can write down on the comment if you know the meaning of dawa. It means medicine. Dawa. That's also when using dawa, you're using the dental consonant the. Right? Now let's take some English example. When you say mother, you by now you must have noticed when you're saying this sound when you're pronouncing mother, that's also the mother, right? Clear is it? That we can cover some of the next example. Some of you have already given the new example, darwaza. So darwaza is nothing but a door. There's a very famous book in like learning Hindi, a door to learning Hindi, and door is nothing but a darwaza, like in Hindi, darwaza. Can you think of any more examples in the? Feel free to write it down because that's all I have in the. So I'll just take a quick pause and see if you can come up with more examples. Dopahar, very good. So these are variations of the dopahar. And if you look at it, when you're saying do, it literally means number two, right? So we have one more example, which is do. When you're saying number ek do, so that's number two, do. I'll just write it as DAU. That also has the in it. And do pair meaning like second pair, which is like it is noon for afternoon. Okay. Now let's look at the another example that came in the comment box to see whether it is correct or not, right? So now let's look at this one. When you say doctor, right? If we literally like write it like this, like in Hindi, you will use the sound which we discussed last in the last class. The So this is da, but the base sound here is d, which is looks like s, right? So when you're saying doctor, this d sound is not the. Like in this d, what you're doing is you're curling your tongue a little bit and touching it to the palate, right? So this one is more like a retroflex. So when I say doctor, I'm curling my tongue a little bit and touching it to the hard palate. Whereas when I say the, I'm using the tip of the tongue and touching it to the top teeth, upper teeth, right? So it's a good example for the, but this is incorrect example for the, right? But good question actually. Now let's look at the other one, teeth basically, right? The Hindi word for teeth is dant, dant, and actually I am using this the when I'm saying dant because I'll write it like this, and because we've not done the, I mean we have done the, I can write it down actually here. So dant, we'll do the this part later on, but focus on just the sound. When you're saying dant, you're using the tip of the tongue and putting it to the upper teeth. This the plus a, dant. So that's again a very good example for the. Okay, so now so far so good. Now we'll go to the fourth um, consonant in this series. Fourth one we have, it's known as the. The. And the is nothing but an aspirated version of the earlier one. So the plus aspirated version. So if you say the with a lot of air, you will be able to pronounce the, right? Again say that the, and let's go over some of the easier way to remember it. So if you look at it, it looks like a mirror image of number three, which is like hanging on a tree or a wall, right? So let's say you make a mirror image of three, right? Now you tilt it a little bit, right? You shift the angle of this tree a little bit. That was step one. This is step two. And step three will be again, this is the three, and then you make a vertical line here. So that's the, and then you make a small circle here if you want. Right? That it's important that you make a circle, otherwise you may get confused with another consonant g. Okay. So again, make a mirror image of three, tilt it a little bit, make a vertical line, and then make a circle to the tip. Basically, that's the, right. Again, I'll primarily be covering Hindi examples, or Hindi vocabulary words to cover this sound. If you can think of more vocabulary words in your native language or English, feel free to write down. Um, Dhan, it's when you say dhan, right? I mean, dhan, it's money. It's one of the paisa is used commonly, but when you say dhan, it's like it's a more formal way of saying money. And when you're saying dhan, that's also when you're using this the consonant, right? Uh, One more I have is dhanush, dhanush, right? So even when you're saying dhanush, this sound is the, and this is nothing but bow and arrow, right? So arrow is tir, and bow is dhanush, dha. And as you rightly pointed out, even when we say dhanyavad, which is thank you, we are using this dha. Dhanyavad. So this is thank you. So thank you for giving me these examples. The dhanyavad, right? Uh, let's look at some more of them. Right? Even when we say milk, right? I mean, here it's called doodh. So the first one, it's a different consonant, but the doodh. But the last one, like this is the. Like in the first one is like the unaspirated sound. So in a way, it's very good example because it's covering both of them. And I'll write it down again so that way you can see it on the. Actually, let me just erase it and write it down with me. It's a very good example because you can see both the unaspirated and the aspirated sound. So when you say dude, you can ask me a very question like you are saying the here, you're saying the here, right? Which one is which? So when you're saying dude, you use the, but with and the base sound is the, and here it's the. So unaspirated and aspirated. However, you can see this is oo, right? So you make a oo here on the, right? So do the, right? So do the, and it means milk. It's a very good example because again, as I said, it's covering both of the adjacent consonant, right? Now let's look at another one. Let's look at another one, which is like last time one of the students asked for it, dharm, which is the English word is religion. So even in this one, like the sound, the first one is the sound dha, dhar. Okay. Let's take some more examples from you, and then so that way we can see if you have some more to cover. One of them which was given is like it's a verb basically, right? When you say dhona, dhona, dhona is to wash, to wash. Right? So again, the base sound is the, but then you're putting o here, dhona. It makes it a very good example of the as well. Any questions or comments so far? Okay. We'll take the next one now, which is the last consonant in this series, which is n. Fifth one. Right. There are many ways to remember it, but I'll just go by what I'm like what's easy for me to remember. So again, you make a vertical line, step one, vertical line, and then a horizontal line from the center, step two, and then vertical line, horizontal line, and then you make a small circle here. No, right? No. There is no aspirated version of no, so you simply say no. Um, during this particular class, we've covered even in the previous class, we have several times we have covered the word called nahi, right? To say no, right? Um, the sound here, it's the same as this. The consonant here exactly same as this now, nahi, right? And even in the beginning of the class, I had an example iPhone. So this na is you're making the sound of na, iPhone, right? So that's also na. Some more examples is like pen. Even when you write pen, this sound is na, right? Pen, pencil, right? All of them, or even ban. Something is banned. So this is also a na sound, right? Na. You'll find plenty of examples in na. There's no limitation on it, right? So you easily find it. And now let's take some of the Hindi examples of right? So nadi. When you say nadi, it means river. And here also the base sound is na, which is this consonant na, right? And even like kan, which is your ear, that's na sound. First, I'll do just the na, and then we can do variation, right? Or one of the variation would be nak. Right? When you say nak, that's your nose, but that's na plus ah, right? That's your nose. I hope it is helping you. I think more examples sort of helps you develop your understanding on not only the consonant but also the sound, right? One of the examples which is given here is naraz. So now we can open it up for any kind of variations on na. So na plus a is na. So when you say naraz, naraz means upset. So here also the sound is na. Naraz, right? Namak, as you rightly pointed out. When you say namak, namak is salt. Namak, so that's salt. So that's also the sound of na. Good. Anything else that you can think of? I hope this is clear. I plan to go over like the last classes. I plan to go extensively over one of the and how it changes with different sounds, right? With different vowels. And the exercise would be for you to do it for all the other like dental consonants, right? And after that, we'll open it up for discussion. So it will be just 10 more minutes, and then you will learn all the dental consonants in Hindi, right? And in my opinion, that's a very good progress from when we started, like 6 weeks ago, because by now we have covered the entire vowel series, and we are at the fourth series of Hindi consonants, right? So now what I want to do is as an example, to give you an example, I thought of giving you variations of na, like how when you add different vowels in what is the resultant form. So we'll do 6 right now, and so if you remember again all the vowels, we had a, e, e, okay, we had we had right? So as I said, all the consonants in its base form, they have the sounds. Output here will remain the same. No, right? As we discussed several examples of no, I'll just write down one here, namak. Namak is salt. Salt, right? Namak. Okay. The second one is, what is the resultant form of na when you add a in it? If you remember from the earlier three classes, what we do is in the na, you just put one vertical line parallel to this na, right? So you're taking this line, this pipe, and putting it in the front of na. Now it has the sound is na, the one which we use in naraz, na, right? Even if you remember, like we used to say, "Aapka naam kya hai?" So when we say naam, that's also sound na here, right? Na. Or even when we discussed na, that's na, which is known. Naam is, you probably everybody knows, name. Naak is nose, right? All of them have the sound na. Okay. Um, Again, I'll let you think more and more examples of it, but idea is to go over all of them and see if you can come up with variations, right? Now, in this one, like na plus e, it will be ni, and the waterfall will be on the left hand side, right? So what you do to make e sound in na is, like, you put e in it, and for this e, you just put the waterfall or the matra on the left hand side, ni, ni, right? Example of this ni is nil. It's a soft e, ni, nil. Uh, you probably, all of you at this point must be thinking pani, pani, right, which is water. But in pani you have this e, which is a little bit, you put more emphasis on the e sound. Right here it's nil. You're just saying it nil, right? Um, so when you say pani, right, you're using this e, and what you do here, in when you put e sound on na, you put the matra on the right hand side. I mean, the good way to remember is, like, it's just a waterfall. It's on the right hand side, ni. So when you write pani, it's pa, a, and then you put in ni, pani, pani, pani. Okay. Um, let's keep going, and then let's see what happens when you put, oo sound on right. So this na is, when you put oo here, it's na, but now you're putting the matra on the bottom, basically on the left hand side. Whereas on this oo, it's on the right hand side. I hope you can see it. So if not, I can write it down here. So it's the soft oo, the matra is here, and the hard oo, or the, when you put more emphasis on oo, it's on the right hand side. No, right? Examples are. Can you think of example? Please write it down. So on the soft one, think of it as like nook, nook. When you're not putting too much of emphasis on the oo sound, right? Nook. The example of the other one, when you are, like, saying noon, noon. Think of it like noon. When you're saying noon or nook, you yourself can test it out. Right? When you're saying nook, it's like the soft oo. Whereas, like, when you say noon, you're putting a lot of emphasis on the oo sound, right? Oo, noon, right? So that's noon versus nook. Right. So I'll erase it, and we'll go to the remaining vowels. right? So now I have A, I, O, how, um, and then we, right? When you put A in it, it becomes nay, nay. You put like a matra, one matra here. So this A, this sound is A, nay. As you rightly pointed out in one of the examples, when you say neta, right? When you say neta, that's basically the sound. Ne, neta, A, right? Don't confuse it with E sound, it's A, neta, okay? Um, Even when you say Nepal, country, right? That's you have Ne, Nepal, A, right? Now, how do you differentiate, like, it's easier for me to come up with Hindi example, but I was thinking of something that you can relate with, right? So it's difficult to come up with, like, exact English, like, example, but when you say name, right? So when you say I, right, you put two matras on it. So this name would be name. So think of a sound like napkin, napkin, name, right? That's napkin. Or think of nap, right? Even when you're saying nap, that's different than, like, this sound meta or nag, nag. All these are like the sound when you're putting I, basically sound similar to I on na, nay, right? Nay. Now let's look at the, so when you put O on na, it becomes, so this one should be simpler, no. Very simple, right? I mean, when you say no, it's exactly the same sound, right? No. And when you put ow in it, it becomes two matras, right? So basically, you just replace this with no, no. And even when you say knocker, right? Knocker is servant, basically. In knocker, what you're doing is like you're replacing a with no, and the sound is o, knocker. Now this one is, so when you put half n, right? So think of it as like this way. Although we have not covered half n, but any situation when you have n followed by half n, where you have like a, or anything followed by half n, the output here is like, you have n, and on top of it is the, no, on top of it is like the n sound, half n sound, none, right? No, and then dot on top of it. So a word like permanent, right? You can say it a little differently in, like, based on your pronunciation. But when you say permanent, so this is nay sound again. But right after nay, you say nay, right? Right after nay, permanent, you have nt, right? So this is the sound that we covered last week, right? But it's, if you just say permanent, it doesn't make sense, right? You will notice that there is a small n here that has to be placed somewhere to give it a sound of a nasalized nay, right? For that, you will put a dot here, basically, permanent. So even though I wanted to cover explicitly this sound now and dot on top of it, I couldn't think of a simple example. However, just to explain you the principle, this is a na sound, this sound, but there's a nasalized n here on top of it. So that's pharma net, right? The last one is you know na, and then you're putting re here. And again, I'm not sure if you can write. See the bottom of the whiteboard. So I'll write it again. Na. So it's basically na, but then in the bottom we're making a C here, and it sounds like NRA. Na. Na. Okay. Um, Na. And examples of na are like, for example, if you're into art and crafts, think of this example. Nritya. Nritya is dance. It's like a formal way of saying dance. Nachna, it's used as a verb, but the noun is nritya, Nitya, and this nri is nothing but na, and there is a re here. N. I hope it's making sense. This covered our whole series of Hindi consonant, which is our dentals. I'll open it up for discussion, but folks who are watching live on YouTube, let's meet again next week with another series of Hindi consonants. Quick announcement here is like, I decided that to give certification also for Hindi writing. So not only we will have like certification if you pass a test. Right after we finish all the consonants, I'll publish a small test as well that will basically check your understanding on Hindi reading at least and a little bit of writing as well. And then even if you even if you attend the classes, like like, the bar is quite low now. Even if you attend like 8 classes minimum live, and you let me know your name and that you attended 8 session, which sessions you attended, you get a star certificate from Hindi University. With that in mind, I'll just open it up for discussion, and folks who are watching live.